We don't do a lot of Apple stuff on the channel, and it's certainly not for a lack of wanting or for the fact that I don't use their stuff. I use a lot of their stuff. In fact, a lot of my nostalgia, especially computer-wise, goes back years collecting 90s Mac laptops, my old PowerBooks. I have a huge collection of those and iBooks and all the way down the line. I've used their iPhone since 2007, since the very first one. I was one of those people in line at AT&T to pick up an iPhone in 2007. But they tend to be a little bit boring as far as a technology channel is concerned. They have the one release. Sometimes they'll have the SE, a new SE come out, which I think is a more interesting device that they provide, that they sell. So we did videos on the last SE that came out. And I tend to do a lot more with the older iPhones because I think that's the sweet spot of value because they support them so long. You could get an iPhone that's 3-4 years old, and so since they're everywhere, everybody has one. There's a lot of supply of older iPhones, but they're still in good use. They're in good shape. They're still supported. You could use them for a lot, and they tend to have some nice value there for the prices that you could get them for. But for the most part, late August, early September, they have the one release of the year, iPhone 14. iPhone this year will be iPhone 15 and on down the line. And that's it. We kind of do some videos on it and then forget about it for a while. I'll use it for the year, but that's it. The past couple years, they've started to let some issues slip in. iOS is not as stable as it has been in the past. It's not as simple as it has been in the past. So, if you want to... That was iPhone's... that wasn't Apple's official excuse for years, but that was always the rumor, that they wouldn't let additional stuff in, like widgets, like a lock screen, like an always-on display, because they felt that it would complicate things, and then all of a sudden you'd have stuff start bursting at the seams. Well, that happens a little bit. iOS 15 has had more bugs than I can remember an iOS system having, and 16 the same. The one thing that was weird and was not really a problem for me on 15, or certainly on 14, with my iPhone 13 was battery life. The iPhone 13 ushered in an era of battery life that was certainly not seen on iPhone before, and certainly rare for flagship devices in general. So that was something new. We're talking, especially on the Pro Max, over 10 hours of screen on time at a flagship level of performance with a beautiful display, nice OLED, good colors, fantastic brightness. One thing Apple's always gotten right is the brightness on these displays when they make the panels. They were slow to come around to OLED panels, but when they did, wow, they certainly got the brightness right, which is something that Google seems to forget on some of their flagship level phones. But the past couple months, I would say, I've been having issues with battery life. I've been getting a lot more drain than I'm used to. I've been getting days where normally with my iPhone, I could start a day at 100%, film a couple videos, use 2 hours, not kidding, this is not facetious or anything like that, I'm not exaggerating, 2 hours of turn-by-turn navigation, and still be at 70%, 65%, I'll be conservative there, and it will last me another whole day. It's just insane battery life. Things that I would do where I would use it for an entire day. I wouldn't film a whole lot, but let's say I do a little turn-by-turn navigation, say an hour. Use it the entire day. Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It's my Facebook machine. It's my main Pokemon Go machine as well, that I'm catching all my Pikachus on here. We'll catch one real quick. But going through entire battery life where I would get 2 full days of screen on time without any issues whatsoever. Now, in the past couple months, I've had days where that's not the case. I've had days where I couldn't do that, and I've had to not charge up, but I've had a lot more days where I'm finishing sub 30%, sub 20%. A reset will fix it, but that's odd for me with iOS to even have to do anything battery-wise or software-wise in order to get it back to a kind of workable performance level. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if it's iOS 16. I don't know. Hopefully iOS 17 fixes it. I don't know if it's the extra features. I have always on display turned off because that was absolutely destroying my battery life. I don't care how dim they made that display. That was the dumbest implementation of an always on display I've ever seen, and it absolutely crushed my battery life repeatedly. So I turned that off. The battery life got to a point where it was pretty good on iOS 16 with that off. It kind of was reminding me of my iPhone 13 once again. But like I said, I've had the past couple months, I've noticed drain again and not getting that great battery life, just seeing a lot of issues with that. Like I did a couple hours of turn-by-turn navigation today, it took down 40% of my battery. That doesn't happen. Sitting there on standby 15% a day, that doesn't happen on my iPhone. So I just want to know if people are having similar experiences. Maybe you've done something, or if you noticed something, or you've come up with a trick or something you could turn off besides just restarting. Restarting means there's something wrong. Restarting means there's something leaking somewhere, that the restart just kind of clears that for a little bit and then it sneaks back in. So that to me is not a permanent fix to anything. And I hope that the software updates are able to come through and clear that up, because I have had those issues and it's just odd. I don't really talk about iPhone stuff a lot because there's really not a lot to talk about throughout the course of a year, especially when Android has so many manufacturers, so many things coming out. Google has their oddities that we get to talk about. So if you're an iPhone user, if you've been noticing kind of abnormal battery behavior the past month or two, let me know in the comments section below if you change anything. I've changed nothing about my usage. I went from it being not great on release with the lock screen and the always on display, turning it off after that first update. After I turned off always on display, then they had an update they came out with. Then I went back to pretty superb battery life, especially in terms of other flagship and other Android devices, like really good battery life. My 9 hours of screen on time again. But now I'm not getting that. Again, this week, I had issues with it. I'm not getting it. A lot of more standby drain. A lot of drain on turn-by-turn navigation, just using it, basic stuff, texting. Stuff that normally doesn't drain my battery is now draining my iPhone. So I'd be curious to see what's going on. I'd be curious to just for iPhones to be interesting again. Is really what their hardware stuff is still interesting. The VR stuff, it is what it is, whatever, you either get it or not. The hardware stuff is still interesting. Some of the software stuff they do is still interesting, but iPhone's just stagnated. Maybe we need another category. The regular iPhone 14s were certainly not it. They were overpriced. They nerfed them artificially. There's just something has to happen with iPhone. I don't know what it is, because it's certainly not bad hardware. Never been bad hardware. Despite the difficulties, it's not bad software. It's just kind of a malaise that we've kind of entered here as far as iPhone's concerned. It'd be interesting to see. I don't think the deep red crimson that they're going to have on iPhone 15 is going to be enough to kind of jumpstart us and get us out of that and get us interested in iPhone again, despite the fact that you feel it when you pick it up. Some of the best hardware out there. Certainly the fit and finish. Apple is never short at that. And the iPhone 14 Pro is no exception. It's still a device most people are going to want in their pocket, and for a reason. I don't want to pull out the it just works. I used that in a recent Android police article on the iPad 2022. But it's kind of close to that. It has its problems. It has its glitches. It has its bugs. But when you just want a phone to get things done and you want to communicate with your friends and you want to have iMessage and lossless sending of pictures and videos and all the rest of it, and I don't know anything about that RCS stuff. That's above my pay grade. I don't get into that. But if you want all that experience, plus the ecosystem and the apps and the fact that a lot of apps are still tuned to iOS that aren't tuned on Android. So iPhone is where it's at. I'm just a little disappointed that the battery life has not quite been what I would expect, especially since the iPhone 13. If you made it this far, like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Until next time, have that Steve-licious day.